everybody. So this is going to be really fun. We are here to talk about season 4 of When Calls the Heart. We've already done a podcast on the other seasons. You want to make sure you check those out. And we are going to talk about, this is the latest season, and we have season 5 coming up in January. So Amber, you want to say hi?
Hi, everybody.
On to the Christmas special. So there's this peddler who comes into town.
Santa.
Yeah, basically. And
Secret Santa.
And he's kind of got everything in his cart that people need, and all of a sudden the train or the stagecoach or whatever is going to bring all the stuff for Christmas isn't going to come, so they have to figure out how to make everything, or get stuff from the peddler, and they're able to make kind of an old-fashioned Christmas and make everybody's dreams come true and all of that. So it's pretty good. Oh, I got this Christmas. It
was perfection. It was literally everything that an episode of When Calls the Heart should be, everything that a Christmas show could be. It was perfect. It was the best show ever. And like, there was even Rosemary being silly, and then Rosemary learning something better, and Jack being like, "You're gonna say that you are shocked and astonished and that you love it," and then she tells him that she says exactly what Jack says she's gonna say, and it's so funny. So
Leyland buys her a spider brooch, which I guess is all the rage at Sotheby's or whatever in New York, but she thinks it's hideous. She hates it, and so she tries to pretend like somebody stole it, somebody whatever, and but then Jack ends up getting
she didn't say that anyone stole it. She just thought that he was going to think that he lost it, and then he said someone stole it because there was a thief in the town. But
that's right.
I don't remember whatever happened with the thief. I don't remember who.
Well, no, because they accused the peddler of.
I know they accused him, but I don't know who actually was the thief. I can't remember.
She was the thief. No. She took it.
Did someone else lose something, or was it just him? I'm probably thinking of another time. It doesn't matter.
Anyway, yeah. So she sells it to the peddler because she wants it to go away, and thinks that he'll think it's either lost or whatever. And the peddler ends up in jail because they think that he stole it. And anyway, yeah. So Jack tells her, like, you're gonna pretend that you love this, and you're gonna. So that was pretty cute.
It was cute. The whole show was so perfect for me. I can't even think, basically it was just how well the setup was for each person's gift and whatever they needed to get from the peddler, and how it all just sort of wove together in perfect unity. And Cody giving up his fancy baseball, and it was like, he's so precious. And then it was so great. Like, the only thing that made me a little bit mad was so Cody sells his baseball and whatever, and then Abigail's like, "Hey, that's Cody's baseball. Why do you have it?" And he's like, "Oh, she bought it for this kid, and it was blah blah blah, because it was 10 pennies and he had no pennies at all." Anyway,
because he was.
I do not understand why Abigail didn't just say, "That's so great," and then as a special Christmas prize for him, buy the ball back from the peddler.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised with that too, but because he was buying a present for his sister.
No, not his sister. A girl, just one of the new girls, and she needed her Betsy Whoopsie doll or whatever it's called.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and so it was really cute, and I hope they grow up, and I hope they get married. This is the thing about the kids storyline. I'm just saying we're putting in work for season 12 when the kids are 17 and they can have romantic storylines. We're putting in stuff, and it's going to be
Love's Come Softly, but
Love's Enduring Promise.
Yeah,
and I'm just I'm excited to see when Cody and Betsy Whoopsie girl fall in love, and I 100% cannot wait until the kid who scared off the bear ends up falling in love with the little girl who has the teddy bear. They are going to get married for sure, because she said, "Oh, I'm going to marry you someday," even though she thought he was lying. I mean, he was lying.
Oh, she did?
She did when she thought that he saved her from the bear.
isn't that, what's that girl? Opal is her name or something like that? Anyway, yeah, okay. So what would you give the Christmas special then?
5. A 5 for 5.
5.
It was really
Woo!
perfect. I'll
It
watch it
was,
again and again.
it was really good. I will give it a 4.5. I
Ooh.
really liked it too. It was really good. Okay. And it was the most popular thing that they have aired. 3.66 million viewers. So there you go. We talked about how in our first episode how they had one of their best years ever in 2016. So that's probably part of it. So in season 4, we get the arrival of the railroad and the and we have Abigail becoming mayor and the head of the railroad led by a guy named Ray Wyatt.
Yes.
And so he wants to bring the railroad into a particular area. The farmers are freaking out about it and like causing all this conflict. And Abigail must decide what to do. And she tries to have it be a vote of the town. But then in the end, she has to decide what's best for the town. She goes against the railroad, which Gowan says is pretty stupid. I was not a big fan of Abigail being mayor. It didn't interest me, most of this stuff. I found the railroad people pretty boring.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Abigail being mayor is basically just the problem with Abigail, but times a million, because she's not just in charge of some people or like the people who come to her. She's like, I'm in charge of everyone. I'm in charge of the town. I know everything that's right. It's me. And she's not doing it in like that kind of a way, but it feels that way to me, even though she's not doing that way. I just feel crazy about it. And so I hate when she's the mayor person.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, the whole time I was like, I hope the railroad leaves and goes to another town. And she's like, well, I'm calling you bluff. And of course it works out for her because everything always works out for Abigail. Yeah. But I just wish that it wasn't. And like when Gowan was like,
because Gowan actually gives her like good advice. Like, you have to make the tough decisions.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I am so happy that you said that.
You can't let the town like lead it up to an open vote. Like, that shows that you're weak and not willing to make decisions. Like, you need to make these decisions. It's your job, and which is true. And so I don't know. It's just.
I was just on Team Gowan so much of this season. This is probably why I'm like, in retrospect, the most Gowanist of all the fans is because like every time he was giving Elizabeth some advice that she inevitably ignored, which somehow worked out for her miraculously. I was Abigail? Like, yeah, that's why. Anyone he gives advice to. And it's just like, sometimes he's not even actually making a threat. He's just like, I wouldn't do that if I were you. And he's just like, it would be like, he's like, that if that were me, I wouldn't do that. But he's like this. So everyone's like, that was a threat. And he was like, no, it was just from the advice.
Not every time. The railroad, I thought, was a very kind of archetypal kind of villain character. You knew that Ray Wyatt was really up to no good. And I
actually feel like they didn't quite know what they wanted to do with Ray Wyatt. I feel like they wanted to make the railroad always the villain, but I don't think they knew that they wanted Ray Wyatt to be the bad guy until later. I think what happened was they were trying to decide, and I don't know what production is. Maybe this was their plan all along. But it felt to me like they were like, okay, we're going to have to lose somebody at the end of the season. It's either going to be Gowan as the like guy who ends up taking the fall finally, or this Ray Wyatt guy who ends up taking the fall. And we're like, oh, who is it going to be? And then I think they finally decided that like Gowan's the best. So they kept him. And then they finally turned the corner on Ray Wyatt when he grabbed Faith's arm and was like super aggressive with Faith. And that's basically when they turned the corner on him.
He never really did it for me. So Ray Wyatt.
Well, he didn't do it for me either, but I felt like they weren't sure what they wanted him to be.
Interesting.
In the earlier episodes.
Interesting. Well, anyway, he has his nephews that are there, and they're creating all kinds of trouble. There's all these new students in the town. And so at this first episode, they have Jack and Elizabeth planning this baseball game, and that was kind of fun, I thought. I'm like,
of course it ended in a tie. I wish some team had won and they were like, you know what? It doesn't matter whether you win or lose. It's how you play the game.
Yeah, I
And
guess. But I had fun with it.
there's
Them being competitive. I thought that was sort of fun. And her trying to like learn baseball from a book and stuff. And I enjoyed that. That was okay. And so anyway, and then next we have this. So Lee is getting all of these orders, super stressed, and Rosemary is like very worried about it. So she's like cooking tons of food. She's making like these huge meals. And then Jack gets this medal from the Mounties, and we forgot to talk about they've made Elizabeth a writer.
Yeah,
And
I'm just gonna ignore it. Can we just ignore it? Because
okay.
it'll never come of anything until like the last season when she gets her book published, and she's gonna call it One Calls the Heart, and it'll be like that's how the book ends.
Yeah.
I just don't want to talk about it.
All right, because we've just seen that so many times with Anne Shirley and Joe March and like so many characters from this
Except
era.
for Joe March really was a writer who continued and became published. Hashtag actually happened.
Okay, so yeah, that's kind of cheesy, but anyway, and so there's all this. There's continued conflict, and Bill has also been hired as this like security.
Once again, another Bill
Railroad
storyline I don't care about.
episode. Elizabeth puts on a carnival to try to earn money, and there's this little boy whose father is a single dad who's named Shane.
Yeah, Philip is the kid's name, and Philip is adorable,
Cute.
he is a great addition. More Philip, I say. Philip and Opal can fall in love if things don't work out with her and the kid who has the bear.
Right. So anyway, so that was kind of fun, and Rosemary gets a job at the cafe because she's like so anxious, and she gets a job at the cafe, and of course she's like a disaster at being a waitress. She's really bad. So and I think it's Bill who hires Rosemary, if I'm not mistaken.
It is. See, Bill does great things when he's not doing the arcing storyline.
Yeah.
And
so they get a new teacher. Yeah, that's right. It's 5 where Elizabeth gets fired because there's this letter saying that she used her like family's influence or something like that to gain her position, which I don't understand why that's necessarily a bad thing. Like that's how most people get their jobs.
Yeah, I don't really understand. I don't really understand why they did it, but the superintendent was like, "This is a problem." So then, obviously, Gowan. He was like, this was brought to my attention. I got to do this. And who knows how long he had that letter and how long he was sitting on it. But I'm like, you know what? It's a plausible reason. So HR wouldn't even get mad at him. He wouldn't even be able to be sued because he's like, this is reasonable. And I was like, fine. And she really was like such a jerk to the railroad people being like, not everyone's Lee, okay? Not everyone's just going to give your people time off. And she was just always like nitpicking Ray Wyatt. And she's like, you need to pay more money for the children. You need to let your people have more time off because they're overworked so your children can learn. And I'm like, you should teach them to learn, woman. She's like, well, they need to learn at home. And I'm like, well, you're always at their houses anyway, so you're fine. You just, anyway. So I don't even mind that they did this as the railroad and Gowan. But what I would have preferred, you ready? What I would have preferred, which is kind of what ended up happening, but I would have preferred that the railroad started their own school.
Well, that's kind of what they did. And then
it's not exactly what happened. Like she got kicked out and then she started being a tutor and she's like, that's not good enough.
Well, and they say like, we want to hire you as a teacher for our school, but she says I don't want to do that because my name has still been tarnished, and she's trying to get other people the guy who superintendent whoever wrote the letter, he was kind of skeevy and gross, and so she's trying to get these other women who he was skeevy and gross to support her and come out and everything like that. And so anyway, you have that whole plot going on, and I don't know, I thought that this was really a downer and just not, I didn't like it. I didn't like this Mr. Stoneman. I thought I don't know, it was just a thing. That the thing about it is nobody in the town learned anything from it. None of the people who end up sticking around learns anything. The only people who learn or grow from these storylines are the people who end up going away. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and you also have you have Carson Shepherd coming into town.
Okay, let's talk about how much I love Carson Shepherd. A million percent, I love him.
What do you
Played
love
by
about
the
him?
impeccable Paul Green.
Yes, he's a Hall star. Let's definitely a Hall star.
Hashtag Hall star.
And he is very attractive.
He is very attractive, but even more so than very attractive. I think he does a great job.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the storyline of him was interesting. I mean, even though they tried to make us think like he had some dark secret, and it wasn't even us, it was Frank, who really took a turn for the worse in this season. Okay, Frank, let's get back off your sanctimonious horse, Frank. Being like, this guy's got a secret, he's got a troubled past, blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, bank robber. Yeah, let's talk about people's troubled past. Also, aren't you supposed to be a priest? You're supposed to be running people out of town. You're supposed to try to help people and bring them on the path of righteousness. Like, it made me so frustrated, that plot point, because it didn't even feel like something that a guy who
forgiven of his past. Why was he so like diving into Carson Shepherd's past? And
we knew the instant he came on screen, the first thing he ever does is literally saves the girl with the Betsy Hoopsie doll from being run over.
Right.
Literally,
obviously he's not
him. Yeah, agreed. There's no shadow of a doubt in my mind that he's a good person.
Right.
So the whole thing was like, I mean, I could understand them being like, oh, what's this? But that sounds like something that, like, not Frank would do, because Frank is the pastor who came from a life of crime. And it didn't make sense to me that he would do that. But I mean, that's something that Bill would bring up, something that even, like, Rosemary would bring up, being nosy, but not something that Frank would be all rude about. I don't know. It made me mad.
So then there's also this whole thing with this young Mountie that Jack had mentored, and they meet again, and there's all this conflict. I can't even remember what conflict was. Any conflict up north. There's all kinds of going on up
like
north.
Outlaws up north who are just running the roost. So and they're trying to get him out, but I don't know.
Yeah, and so it's very sad that the young Mountie ends up getting killed, and so Jack ends up going up there to the funeral and everything like that, and he's very depressed. And this is like the first in a long line of people who are depressed this season. That's part of the reason why I didn't. Abigail's depressed. Elizabeth is depressed about not having her job and because of Jack leaving. And Jack is depressed, and everybody's depressed. It's just very sad.
The thing about the like trials that they go through, they don't learn anything, is why I think it's an irritation to me.
Because Rosemary's depressed at a certain point. She's sad. Lee's depressed at a certain... Like, everybody is just... I don't know. I felt like it was such a downer this season.
It was a downer. But Lee and Rosemary, I mean, they go through their struggle, which is trying to balance their own lives with being married and being with each other, and also dealing with, like, added work pressures and things like that. And I feel like we see them have these conflicts, have these issues, work through them together, grow together, you know? And they both kind of learn and give a little in their relationship. They kind of do that. Abigail doesn't seem to me to have learned anything or grown through any of her stuff that she's gone through in this season. I don't know. And then, like, Elizabeth doesn't, and Jack don't seem to have really learned anything more, other than Jack was like, well, I've learned my duty, I gotta go up north. Like, that's not... So he's not feeling really like a character growth, it's just like a motivation. So if he comes back from, like, the war up north and has changed, that could be interesting. But I just sort of feel like at this point we're 4 seasons in, and I don't really think that Elizabeth has changed from season 2 to season 4. She underwent some growth, and Jack underwent some growth in season 1, but I don't think Abigail has changed since the first episode.
Yeah, agreed. And so Jack ends up proposing to Elizabeth, and that was a pretty beautiful, fun scene.
It was, once the once the tea candles back in the day or the twinkly lights in now come out, that's when stuff gets real serious. But I mean, even that is just like, well, what made this moment the moment that he was actually going to propose?
Because he was leaving.
But that doesn't, it's not a decision based on like character growth. It's a decision based on like a war wedding. Like, boop, I just want to get engaged before I leave. I mean, I would have actually really approved if they had gotten married right before he left, like a quick wedding. But I don't know. It just feels to me like they didn't actually change anything in their relationship.
At least it was positive, though. I just felt like everything was so like, and so like this was a nice moment. I did like with Rosemary crashing Lee's car. That was funny. And
I mean, everything with Rosemary is great. Even when she was having like Lee and her were having their moment of like struggle with each other, it was still like compelling because I was like, oh, how is this going to work out? And they resolved it and they grew and it made sense.
Yeah. But I also really loved the scene where he loses his voice, the storyline, whatever. That was really funny. That worked.
That was so funny. And she negotiated down for the railroad and it was so funny.
Yeah, it was really good. So yeah, there's tons of time spent on the railroad and Elizabeth and the school and the like Bill looking into the railroad and there's I don't know, just all of it was so slow. And there's lots of time in this season spent on the kids and their various, like I said, science fairs and other projects and everything. And
because Jack leaves and they don't have anything for Elizabeth to do or be other than a teacher or in love with Jack.
Yeah.
So I think they need to find another depth to her or this fake writer thing, which no one cares about.
Right. He gets very okay.
Yes.
And so there's this, all of a sudden there's this mysterious like city doctor, like is he like he's a railroad doctor? I don't know who he is. But anyway, and we find out that the big secret of Carson is that he is a doctor, but he
and not just a doctor, a surgeon, like big time nailed it.
Right. And so he decided to operate on his wife, and I can't remember.
She had like a cancerous tumor, and they were like, she's not going to make it. But he's like, well, let's try doing surgery anyway. And then she died on the table. And her sister was like, he murdered her.
Very upset.
And everyone else in the entire world who had a sense was like, no, he didn't. He didn't murder her at all.
Like the medical board, everything cleared him, but he's obviously very upset, and he sort of turned away from medicine because he's scared they'll do something like that again. And so then Cody and he's actually, once it's announced, he's like, well, I'm just going to leave. And so he's headed out, and Cody all of a sudden has this pain in his stomach. It turns out it's appendicitis, which is very difficult to diagnose. I've had appendicitis and I had my appendix out. So I guess maybe I related to this quite strongly. It's very difficult to diagnose because the same symptoms can be a million other things.
Yeah. And, when it ruptures, I'm just going to say, you're like, you know what? I am literally dying. So please take me to the hospital. I'm dead.
Both appendix free. So we could relate to Cody quite strongly, I think.
Yeah, but
poor Cody. So
poor Cody.
But yeah, there's this city doctor, whatever. He thinks it's just like nothing, but Carson is sure that it is appendicitis, need to do the surgery. And so there's definitely some tension there. And that's what makes Lee depressed, is because he thinks of his brother who had its surgery but didn't make it, and he never got to finish reading Tom Sawyer, and so he was very sad.
It was so beautiful and so sad. Lee the whole time when Cody was sick, and honestly, I know I keep saying it, but like everything Lee and Rosemary do is perfection, and they steal the show, even in this where it's like Cody's dying and there's all this anxiety and all this stuff and all these other people are doing these like great big things. The scenes with Lee and Rosemary and when and talking about his brother was by far and away the best part of the whole show.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I agree. It's very true. Yeah, I don't know. I just thought this season was a slog to get through. It does have a few moments which were nice, but overall it was just like pretty bored in every episode. And And I just thought there was so much, like we skimmed over a lot of the student stuff, a lot of the mayor drama, a lot of the railroad drama, the outlaws, just all of that was so boring and lame. Like there's this whole plot with this AJ Foster or whatever that Bill Avery is like hunting down, and
I know, poor Bill. He's just like always has to do the most boring things.
Yeah, and there's like this whole like shootout and stuff, and I don't know. I just found it kind of tough to get through, to be honest. Two crowns, but I don't know. Tempted to give it 1.5, but that seems too mean.
So for me, it was a little actually higher than season 3. For me, the only high part really of season 3 was just
the wedding,
Rosemary and Lee and their wedding. And so season 4 for me, I'm giving it 2.25, 2.25 crowns. Just because, I don't know, I really liked what Lee and Rosemary did again, but it was fun and a little different from what we usually get to see in Hallmark, because it wasn't just them falling in love, it was them learning how to live in love, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So that was good. And I mean, it gets a tiny bump from just the fact that at least finally Jack and Elizabeth are taking a step forward in the relationship, even though Jack has disappeared for the last half of the season.
Yeah, I don't know. I just felt like everybody was so depressed, and I didn't really like it. So I'll give it two crowns, and for me, because I've just found it hard to get through. Where Jack and Elizabeth's wedding, I'm sure will happen this next season, so that'll be nice.
If it doesn't, they are the freaking worst.
But this whole series, their relationship has just been slow. I mean, it took them 12 episodes just to kiss.
Yeah, I'm mad at them. I will say that I am looking forward to seeing, I guess, Gowan's trial. He's going to have some trial, or do you think they'll skip over it and they'll just be like, oh, I can't believe that he only had to go to jail for 3 months.
It'd be nice if they just zipped through that. And I don't know. I guess I'm fine with him being, I guess Abigail's back at being mayor at the end, right? Yeah.
I guess this town's never heard of elections. Like, how is Henry Gowan the mayor if everyone hates him? Who voted for him?
Right. I don't know.
And then who voted for Abigail?
Person. Maybe he was the only person who ran, so that's who ended up doing it.
I don't know.
Yeah, but anyway.
But I actually would be super interested if they started doing little love stories for the children.
You know, like have them grow up.
Have them grow up a little bit. I mean, there's older students. And then I would also be interested in seeing, can't they have a relationship just get over and done with for Jesse and Abigail's daughter-in-law? Like, either get them in love and married, or stop talking about it.
Yeah. And just have like some fun relationships. Like, we don't need like the one relationship with the widow and that the new miner that from season 2, I think it was. Or maybe it was season 1. I can't remember. But you know that little subplot that they had where he was trying to understand the boy. Like, it was just kind of like cheerful and happy, and it was the side plot. But I feel like a lot of these side plots lately have just been kind of depressing and negative, and I don't know. Like, I would just like, if you're gonna do these side plots, make them kind of positive and romantic and fun. And
you know what I would really love? I would really love for Mrs. Blakely to get a romance.
Mrs. Blakely.
She's the one who is kind of like gossipy, I guess.
Oh yeah. Okay.
She's the one who was like sort of romantically interested in the preacher who was not actually the preacher, who was actually a cornrow.
Yeah.
I would love for her to have a romantic storyline.
Mm-hmm. So, all right. Well, cool. Well, I think we covered it pretty well. So next week, we are going to be talking about Chesapeake Shores.
Yes, in its entirety, because the finale is next week, right?
Correct.
This weekend.
Finale is this weekend, and so you can look forward to that. We'll be talking about season 1 and 2. And so, yeah, take a look at that. And so where can people find you?
They can find the podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
on Twitter at Hallmarkies Pod, or on Instagram at Hallmarkies Podcast, or our website, which is not functional, but it will be interesting eventually.
We've been hard at work.
Hallmarkiespodcast.com. Or you can, if you want to contact just me, I'm at Amber Brainways on Twitter.
Yes. So we have been very, very busy. We're trying to improve every episode. We're trying to, we got our social media mostly set up. We still have some things to do, but we're trying our best to get things set up and just have fun with it. And so, follow us on Twitter. And if you want to follow me, you can follow me at Smiling LDS Girl on social media. And my channel is Rachel's Reviews on YouTube. And my blog is 54 Disney Reviews. And so I will be seeing Blade Runner coming up. And so you want to look on my channel for that, the new Blade Runner. I just did a podcast yesterday with a friend of mine, Patrick, where we talked about Blade Runner, the original. So I definitely have eclectic taste, you can see. But it was fun. And so you can find all the links in the description section to our various content and to the social media of the podcast. And please subscribe to us on iTunes and put in your reviews and ratings. Right now we just have Rachel's Reviews for iTunes. Like I said, it's a work in progress. So, but we'll put a link down. If you could give us your feedback, we'd really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So much, and we will talk to you all next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.